All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this fifth episode of the Slice of BI podcast. And this week, we're joined by our guest, Jade, who is an AI and data consultant, a senior AI and data consultant who works for a consultancy specializing in Microsoft solutions. Welcome, Jade.
Thank you, Nick. Hi, everyone. Excited to be here.
Nice, cool. Okay, conscious of you've got a hard stop out on the hour, Jade. So you don't want to give us a bit of an introduction into who you are, what you do, your specializations, etc.
Absolutely. So, as Nick said, I'm currently a senior data and AI consultant at Columbus. But I've really built my career so far on using data and now increasingly AI to create real business impact. So I started out in analytics within large financial organizations. I've moved across different roles. So starting off in analytics to data engineering and solution architecture, then back into more data science and machine learning, and now more so AI. And outside of that, working in the enterprise, I've also had some experience working with some really early stage startups where it's very different in terms of the pace being much faster and you wear a lot of hats as well. So it's really that mix of both corporate scale, the sort of startup scrappiness as well, which has really given me a blend of different skills and experiences and just taught me to continue to stay curious and very interdisciplinary. Really try to tap into different areas and connect different parts of information, and that is a lot of what being sort of data driven is about. Piecing together different bits of information to get something insightful and useful out of it. So really blending that technical depth with the strategy, the communication, and the ability to ask the right questions have been really core in underpinning both those enterprise and startup experiences.
Yeah. I mean, I just realised I didn't have my mic next to me, so it probably sounded like I was a million miles away. So I've just moved it over. So hopefully I sound a bit better now.
Yeah,
cool. But yeah, so the title of this session in there was the word curiosity. So would you say that, and you kind of touched on it there, curiosity has been a big sort of driving force into where you are today, what you've done and pushed you to learn, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just having the curiosity, but acting on it. I think a lot of us naturally we're curious. We're trying to solve things, work out how different things work. And a key to doing well in data, in AI, in BI, but also having an interesting career is to really just think about what's going on around you, be curious, and then be bold enough to take the action to ask those questions. And I would say, especially when you are starting out, use your inexperience or what you might think of as naivety as a strength. That can really be the platform where you ask really the key fundamental questions as to why things are the way they are, and give you the opportunity to disrupt the status quo, and you learn a lot and you can actually shape and influence a lot just by being that person who is really thinking about how things are running, thinking outside the box and showing that curiosity. And second to that as well, but probably just as important, is the opportunity that it opens you up to. People like people who are curious. So if you show that you have passion, you have interest, you are asking questions, that really does a lot to open up the space of opportunities for you to learn different things, explore different things, and try different things by putting yourselves out there as somebody who is willing to explore other areas and try.
Yeah, I like what you said there around, you can, if you're new into this, I'll phrase it as like you can you can use your naivety as a strength, right?
Absolutely.
So you can ask those questions that if you're like, let's say like a seasoned professional that's 15, 20 years into this, you might feel like a bit of an idiot if you're to ask that question, like, oh, I should really know that. But when you're new into it, naturally when you're a newbie, you're like, oh, I can't ask that in front of all these people because I'm going to look stupid. But no, you should use that as a strength at this stage in your career, because it's like, you want to learn this stuff. So use that nice advantage. You can ask these questions that may seem like simple questions, but you've got the benefit of being new to ask those questions, because and that's, I think when I was early in my career, when I realized that asking questions reveals a whole load, that's when things kind of started to click for me and started to kind of take off a bit more as well. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And just, I think if we're thinking about the space that we're in, in technology and in data, a lot of it is coming to, you have to be able to ask the right questions. You need to ask questions to get these tools to do what you want them to do, to get the outcomes that you want, to even know what you want to work towards. So, it's not just about focusing on the algorithms, it's understanding the business, uncovering those right problems in order to ask the right questions, and how you turn that data into those decisions and those measurable outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when we were like in the build up to this, when we were talking about what we're going to talk about, one thing that came up was the work you've done around partnering with what we'd call like non-digital native businesses. And I'm sure people watching and people that will watch this in the future work with or in companies that you probably classify as non-digital native. So first off, just what does non-digital native mean? And then just tell us a bit around what you did within those, around kind of the strategy pieces you did to reshape the ways they work.
Yep. So I would say non-digital native, you're thinking about your traditional industries. So things like insurance and finance, but also like manufacturing, retail, utilities, things where you think more sort of traditional bricks and mortar businesses. These aren't, the fancy tech startups coming out of Silicon Valley, for instance. And that's really shaping a lot of what I'm doing in my new role, actually, in working a lot more with actually driving digital transformation and innovation in those more traditional, non-digitally native industries. And it's really important to really help them understand data, understand AI, and design strategies that will change fundamentally how they work. Because they are, very valuable. They very much have their place today, but we definitely are in a time of, it's a way of changing how they work, how they operate, to be the resilient businesses of the future that can better serve their customers and grow and be resilient. And what looks really different is that the transformation work that I'm doing with AI, with data, it looks really different to what you would consider a tech company. So like a software company, for instance, because it's not necessarily about, developing a new flashy model or sort of technical hardware device, a new sort of data platform. It's comes back to really a lot more about rethinking of how decisions are made, how you create value, and how data is actually now an asset and a tool to use every day rather than a sort of back office function. So the opportunity there in terms of the type of work that I'm working on is helping these businesses really tackle challenges, but then also reimagine how can you transform into the business that you want to be tomorrow. And then what are the different levers within data, AI, technology that will enable you to get there. So it's not about making them tech businesses per se, but they will become tech enabled or data enabled or AI enabled businesses, being the kind of the best version of themselves for now, but also kind of securing their future to be resilient, to be strong, to be competitive, and make it an everyday interface as to what makes them better at how they operate and how they lead in their space.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I think I've probably got about I'm going to take a wild guess and say I've got about 10 or 12 years on you in age, perhaps, and maybe industry, right? And I remember not long after I started getting into this, and and there was talk about data being an asset. Obviously, AI wasn't around then, but it was talk about data is an asset and there's value in data. But then, a decade plus on, people are still saying that. But you that's kind of, I hope you don't mind me saying, like, kind of the AI generation, right? In career wise, yeah,
I'm not offended.
good. Like, you're like the AI generation where things are much more sort of AI first, etc. How do you see AI opening up that real value in the data for these, what let's call them traditionally legacy industries, right? So you think about manufacturers that have, their legacy industries. They may have archaic processes, things are on premise, they don't have massive data teams, etc. How do you see AI unlocking a lot of that value for those kind of businesses?
Yep. So to your point, legacy industries, they are just full of untapped potential, and it's essentially just hidden within the data that they already have. And a lot of them usually have lots of it. And the first sort of challenge or hurdle to overcome is identifying where that data is, cleaning it up, making sense of it. With data really being an asset, it's something that it exists, but you actually need to take care of it. You need to store it in the right place. You need to, kind of like clean it up, take care of it, and in order to use it for something useful. And it's that data piece that comes first, which then enables the exciting AI stuff that you want to do afterwards. So I think particularly in the context of legacy industries where it's a much bigger sort of transformation process where they are really starting from the ground up, from building, say, a solid data foundation of just having everything centralized or everything in a usable format. That first layer, I would say, is really the efficiency layer. So those sort of quick wins where you can realize that value and solve those data challenges and really get them to a firm starting ground. And that usually ties into things like, automating those repetitive decisions, streamlining workflows, reducing waste, removing the manual processing. A lot of things still done, sort of pen to paper. A lot, I guess, have moved on to at least sort of basic Excel spreadsheets, but there's still that huge gap that a lot of these legacy industries and businesses and organizations have, where the AI efficiency unlock is huge. Like, the data is there, but it's how do we get that value out of it in order to make a process or something in your business far more efficient. And then what more can you do with that time, which even creates more value or less overhead, for instance, and have those savings there. Another aspect of it is the insight that you can get. And that's something that I definitely learned a lot through my data roles in the analytics. It's not just having data is great. Having good data is wonderful, but what's the insight and what's the action that you can drive from it? You need to be able to understand it. And where AI becomes really powerful is especially where you have a lot of data. It can really surface the patterns that are very hard for us as humans to see, or at least would take us much longer, a lot of processing to be able to do so. So, for example, if you are thinking about a manufacturer and predicting maintenance before breakdowns, you have data that you can basically create different patterns off of learned history and develop some machine learning models to help you be able to predict this might be something you need to look into, flag something for maintenance before a breakdown. That saves you on having any downtime, any money that might be lost, and other things like understanding customer churn risk. So think about a retailer who maybe gives a subscription service. They want to understand, why are customers churning from this kind of product? How do we improve our retention, or how do we upsell people onto a different thing? And then the last piece is really the innovation piece, which is the exciting bit of how can you do something entirely new, whether it be a new product, a new service, a new model. So think about like a manufacturer wanting to evolve from selling machinery to selling uptime as a service through some kind of predictive AI model. But again, it always comes back to those fundamentals of having the data and unlocking that value. And that's really what you are in the business of when you are working in AI. It's how do you leverage these technologies and capabilities? It's not, you know, a shiny add-on, but see it as a way to really reimagine how you can have your business and create value and really transform it and embed it into your process as a way that you work and a way that you achieve the outcomes that you want to.
Yeah, yeah. So if you know, people that are going to watch this and they're getting into the AI space as, you know, maybe a developer or a consultant, or they're already doing, you know, maybe they're already a data engineer and they're thinking about doing some AI stuff or whatever they may be, they're in the data space, right? Or if you're talking to somebody who is in one of these organizations and they're thinking about what can I do with AI, I think there's a tendency, isn't there, to go like technology first.
Yeah.
And think, oh, this looks cool, this is shiny, oh, what can that do? Wow, I want that, right? But then what would your advice be to kind of make sure that you take a step back and think about solving problems first, or surfacing value first? Like, kind of what would be your advice around the steps to take around that?
Yeah. Well, I think to that point, you'd have to be really deliberate to, I think, actually say, we're not going to talk about technology first. We're going to talk problems and we're going to talk value, vision, and outcomes. And I would definitely say the easiest place to start is really start with the pain points, especially in legacy businesses. There's a lot of pain points, like what is frustrating you from what you currently have to do in your role, which takes a lot of time, is a painful process. What are issues that are sort of recurring? How are you spending most of your time? And really ground yourself in the reality of the context of the problem or the business and speak to those points. Don't talk about the technology or what you can do or what you can use, because that's just the enabler of providing the solution to get the outcome or the transformation that you want to make. So really start with laying out what is the state of your business, what is not working quite well, what's frustrating, where are you now, and how distant that is from where it is that you want to be. And it's when you have those really laid out, it's from there where you can really start to slot in and see these are the opportunities where doing more with our data or using AI can help us to solve this or unlock this new opportunity. But it all has to be tied to the value of what you want, and what you want isn't new technology, isn't the new model, it's the outcome of having those things, you know, when applied in the right way. So start with what is it that you want to fix, what is it that you want to gain, what is it that you want to change, and always tie whatever you're doing back to those points in that question. So I would definitely say be really deliberate in the framing in your own mind, but then also when you are having those conversations, whenever you're starting any sort of project or discussion or any sort of mental exercise, always start with and keep coming back to the context of the problem that you're trying to solve, and really keep it connected to the people that you're speaking with. It needs to be something that matters to them, to the business, for it to be meaningful and for it to actually realize and achieve the value that makes a positive difference to the business. So yeah, don't jump straight to technology, really keep it grounded in what's the problem or what's the outcome that you're trying to achieve, and really speak in those goal terms.
And again, you can start small as well, can't you?
Yeah.
Like, you know, again, I think there can be a tendency to go, you know, it's all or nothing, go all in, right? But I think, we both work in this space, and we know that what works initially is doing a proof of value.
Yeah.
Do something small, show that value, and then you can build something that you can then build upon, right? You can create the foundation for something else on the top of that. But it shows to the people involved in that project that they can do this, and it gives value, but it proves to the business as well. Because I think one of the key risks when you start talking about implementing AI solutions, particularly into these, I feel bad keeping calling them legacy businesses, but legacy businesses, right? One of the risks that you have is not getting buy-in from the wider business, because they have very set processes, right? They've done things the way they do them for a long time. So by saying, oh, we can automate this or put some AI on it, you're going to struggle to get buy-in. But if you can just sort of do little POVs, little proof of values as you go along, and get people on board with that and trusting it, etc. I personally have found that works really well with these kind of companies, and it's a lot of what we do.
Yeah, I would say I completely agree with that, because otherwise you're going to lose people, and especially in our space, particularly on the AI side, a lot of it is completely new. So for you to go in and talk what might seem like a completely different language, it's not something that would be very effective in getting people on board to be excited about the solution. And it's the adoption that has to happen as well. It's not just the delivery of the technology. It's not that you go away and build something and you hand it off and everything changes from there. It's very much a long journey. So I very much think about it in terms of partnering with your stakeholders, with your customer, with your business. And it's as much about keeping them engaged and in alignment with the understanding as to what we're doing, and aligned in the outcome that we want to achieve, and really going along that journey together in that sense. So with my approach, I would say that I always start with the strategic discovery. So to your point of what you were saying earlier, and what I was saying, it's not about what AI can do. AI can do a lot. It can do practically anything, and if anything, that's part of the challenge, because there's so much you can do. You're sort of spoiled for choice. But what you need to focus on in each case is, what is it that the business needs to do better or faster? And already that massively really helps you sort of focus and concentrate on the areas of work that you actually need to do. And then working backwards from there, it's then how you see how data, how AI can make that possible. But it's about the business first, the business value first, and the outcomes first. Because if you start with that technology first sort of mindset rather than the outcomes, that's where we're seeing a lot of failures in anything, but especially in AI strategy. So alignment really is everything, and tying every use case to that business lever. We're pursuing this AI project because it aligns to this part of our strategy or this business lever. What does it enable you to do? Is it revenue growth? That's the outcome. Is it something to do with cost? Is it minimizing your risk? Is it changing your customer experience? What is that lever that it ties to? And making sure that you are aligned in that when you are discovering, designing, developing, and also like deploying and delivering that solution. And as you were saying, in traditional industries, it really is that make or break factor that people need to understand, like, what's it doing for me? What's in it for me? And why? And that why is really important. Not the sort of behind the scenes of how the technology works, for instance, but like, why is it important? To a certain extent, can I trust it? Is it going to do the right thing? Is it going to help me fulfill the objectives and outcomes that we've agreed to? And that is, something that you realize through that journey and that process. Like, it is also an education piece as well as to how these different things work in a way that makes sense for them in that design. So that partnership is really important.
And I think you said it there really, but in those sort of those conversations with stakeholders, it's leading with the benefits first. So you don't just say, oh, we're going to automate this, or we're going to do this. It's we're going to save you X amount of time, or we're going to drive X% of revenue by doing this. And that's very much what when we have conversations. When I have conversations with organizations around AI, it's benefits and value first, solution and technology second.
Yeah.
To really get people to get on board with what you're trying to do. Cool. So on that trust bit, then, I just said about leading with benefits first. Again, like a bit of advice for people watching this. What kind of things would you advise them to do that help to build trust in AI with like these traditional companies or people that are sort of AI adverse, right? They're skeptics of it. What other kind of advice would you give to people watching to build up that trust?
I would say it starts from the very beginning of especially when you have those first engagements. I really think that's a sort of make or break point in terms of trust. You need to go in being really collaborative and really focus on understanding the business, understanding your stakeholders. Every organization, every person is different. So really tailoring the discussion to show that I'm listening to you. I'm not just coming here to sort of sell an idea or a vision or something that I think is cool in terms of an AI product. It's really paying attention and listening and showing that I want to help you achieve your vision or become better. And I think that comes from to what we were discussing earlier, asking those really pointed questions. Curiosity, I think, goes a long way to build trust, because you don't understand their business like they do. So really use that curiosity, and in doing so, I think that really shows to them that this person really cares in understanding the really deep problems of our business now or where we want it to go. And they're very invested in creating the right solution for us. And adding to that point, it's really important to be sort of co-design, collaborative communication and everything together. Don't see yourself as separate to kind of do your work away in a silo. It's a journey that you need to go on together. It's not for you to just kind of go and design a whole idea, a whole solution architecture and present it back and not expect any feedback or any adjustments. You need to be constantly communicating and constantly checking in. Like, are you okay with this? Explaining how this works. Does that meet the requirements or what it is that you want to see from doing this solution? Because it would be an awful thing to happen that you come to the end of a journey, which can be, really long, especially for larger projects. And at the end, it's that, it didn't deliver what they thought that it was supposed to. And that communication piece is really important for trust, because these are going to be, very challenging projects. There's going to be ups and downs. But if the one thing that you can keep consistent is that communication and that transparency in really talking in their language terms, especially to non-technical stakeholders, that this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, this is what this enables, and that's what builds trust, in having that reciprocal communication and relationship, and really being able to communicate in those understandable terms, and really listen and respond to what you hear, not what you think you heard or what you want to do. But especially when they raise concerns, don't shy away from those. In fact, lean into them, be honest, be upfront. When there are risks, there are challenges, these things can be solved. And what you want is to have that trust and that partnership, that we are fully aware of what the risks are. We are collaborating and co-designing the solutions to mitigate against those. And you want your customers to be really excited and empowered and supported in making the most use and maximizing the advantage of what it is that you are offering them. And you need the trust to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, to shift the conversation a bit, then something we also discussed when we were thinking about talking points for this was around BI as the foundation for AI. So I think one of the things was around reliable intelligence and insights are prerequisites for advanced AI. So do you want to just go a bit more into detail around that?
Yeah, I think business intelligence teams, or just as a sort of concept, have often been underestimated. I think less so now. People are really tapping into the fact that business intelligence and data really do underpin a lot of the value that you are either missing out on because you're not doing it, or are creating because you are using it and using it effectively. And I think they are business intelligence in a way, sort of the sort of unsung hero of AI transformation. Because if coming back to the earlier piece that I was saying when I was talking about those different layers of value of efficiency, insight, and innovation, I think the business intelligence piece really ties into that insight layer of making data understandable and meaningful to drive a decision. It's not just a dashboard or a chart that you see on screen. It's meant to be, how do we get your data in a way that it tells a story, we can interpret it, and off of that understanding and that insight, we have a better understanding of our business, a more timely understanding in many cases, with all the different sorts of automations that you can do these days to get those real-time insights. And it's about using that to really unlock, how do I make a better decision faster to take my business in the right direction. And I think behind a lot of business intelligence, it's more than what you see visually on the screen in terms of dashboards or charts. There's the data lineage, there's governance, there's quality. Data quality is huge, especially for AI. And there's the business context as well, because you have to decide what does go onto a business intelligence report for what stakeholder. So all of these things really do underpin, I think, and form that sort of launch pad for what you would then do with AI, having those really solid BI foundations of, clean data, having those shared definitions, that culture as well of data literacy. It's not about necessarily being super technical, but that fundamental data literacy of, do we understand, the inputs and outputs of our business? If this goes up, what happens? Where do we want to keep it? And that's what I think creates that foundation for AI, which can then sometimes become a bit of a black box. But business intelligence is definitely that sort of solid foundation as to how can we do smarter, better, faster with data, because it's allowing us to understand our business. So with that evolving, I think there's a really big shift that we can see. And it's more so, I think, these days about the insights being not just a historical report of what happened last quarter. We're moving from that to more sort of proactive business intelligence, I would say, which a lot of AI is unlocking with the machine learning, with the predictive capabilities of it, with being able to use historic trends. Now with the business intelligence, we can move from like what's happened to what's likely to happen. What can we forecast is going to happen? How can we forecast these different outcomes for our business and make the right decisions to get to a certain state, or to be prepared for a certain thing that we see coming. So I would definitely say that to people in the AI space, in the BI space, or if you're exploring these different sorts of areas, AI isn't a replacement for BI, but I think it's sort of that natural evolution of that next chapter, of which BI really underpins those the core data, but then also those core elements of, like I was saying, the sort of literacy, the context, the understanding, and just that core purpose of, how do we use our data to get more value in driving better actions and decisions and outcomes for how we want to deliver and change our business.
Yeah. So it's like shifting from like prescriptive analytics, this is what happened, nothing you can do about it now, to predictive analytics. And would you say that, with AI, we're making that prescriptive analytics easier. Because I've been in the BI world quite a while now, and I know that predictive analytics was kind of it was the golden chalice, right? That's what people wanted, but it was quite difficult to get there. It was expensive to get there. You needed lots of machine learning and the expertise that comes with that, and that comes with a price, right? So would you say that AI is opening up or will open up predictive analytics for the average Joe on the street?
Yeah, it definitely is. It's that natural evolution to move to more predictive, more proactive measures, and I think that's a real value that a lot of organizations and even individuals are sort of realizing from AI as to how it is that next step up. And I think that's something that's happening now and will continue to happen in the future. And it's really helping us to get to those insights a lot faster and easier. And I think also the huge unlock is that, once upon a time you had to be very technical, or you had to know code, for instance, to be able to use data to manipulate it to do those things. But if we look at it in another sense, what AI is also doing is enabling that accessibility and that unlock to allow anyone to really kind of interface with their data in different ways. Natural language being a new one, and a very common one that you don't have to, again, sort of code up or be highly mathematical. You can now have different pieces of software and interfaces where you are just talking in natural language, asking data questions, but in your natural language, to understand your business. And I feel like that's what AI is really helping people unlock and actually get more value out of their business intelligence that they have already. It doesn't just have to be in the world of sort of analysts or people who understand that sort of deeply data technical world. It's now becoming sort of accessible to more people, and especially people who are, stakeholders and leaders who want to understand their data and have those insights much clearer and faster and much more actionable as well.
Yeah. So if for people that are like business intelligence developers, BI analysts, BI consultants, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the types of people that will be gathering requirements from customers and then maybe doing a bit of data modeling and then producing dashboards, right? Be it in Power BI, Tableau, Click, whatever it might be. Now, I know from being very much rooted in that space that there is conversations all the time around we're going to get replaced by AI because somebody can just put a prompt in and it will generate some charts.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do, so I'm not going to have a job, right? I don't think that's reality, but for BI professionals facing an AI world, what kind of advice would you give those people to make them ready for that shift?
I think quite simply use the tools, become AI literate in the same way that before it was become data literate. That's also still very true, but you also just need to become AI literate. AI, I agree with you. I don't think should or will, replace BI developers, replace humans completely, because there's so much more to it than just creating a chart or creating a report. Again, with these projects, there is very much that human and communication element to it. And all those human assets as well, which are really critical, like the critical thinking, asking questions, being curious, being creative, communicating. We can't underestimate how important those elements are for transformation, even digital data AI transformation. But yeah, my advice would really be to use the tools and use them so that you can use them to your advantage to make you better. You can do more. You can kind of reshift and sort of reframe and augment your role to focus on the harder or more interesting things where you can actually add a lot more value because you're less bogged down by the manual things that don't really require much sort of creative or critical thinking input. So just use the tools and integrate them into your workflow and just see how they can augment how you do what it is that you do and how you can do those things better, and how that gives you the space to do other things where you can actually be an even more valuable asset. We can't deny that things are definitely going to change. The way that roles are today certainly will look different in 5-10 years time, but the best thing that you can really do is use the tools and practice, get confident, become literate, and that's really how you're going to protect yourself, future-proof your career, and be able to sort of embrace the transition as it happens in a positive way.
Yeah. I know. Like I was, when sort of ChatGPT came available, I was very resistant to it, right? And I was like, I'm not going to use this. I'm not going to like introduce this into my workflow, because people were talking about, I use it every day now, and blah blah blah. And it's a core part of my workflow during the day. And I was very resistant to it, probably like 10 months or something after it came out, and I still just like refused to use it. Now I use it all the time. Like every day I would dread to think how much time I use it, because I use it even if it's just for like, I'm trying to I use it for like a lot for like ideation, right? So I'm trying to think of ideas.
Yeah, it's quite good as a brainstorming partner sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And that could be as simple as like I ask it, what are some good posts to make for LinkedIn, like something as simple as that, right? And I use it, if I'm doing some code or whatever. I don't trust its code output, but it helps me to. Do you know the phrase rubber ducking? Where you're stuck on something and you're trying to come up with a solution, and you can be on it for like days, right? You then phone up your colleague, start talking to them about it, and then suddenly you go, I know what it is now. I just thought of it, and just by talking about it helps you get to the solution.
Yeah.
So I use it for this rubber ducking, right? Where I'm trying to think of what the solution is. I'll just start asking it questions, and I start like talking to it and stuff.
Yeah.
And quite often I get to the solution I need in the end. But I think you're absolutely right. It's like don't be resistant to it. Like embrace it, right? It's not going to take your job away. It's I'm going to say it's your friend. that sounds really cringe, right? But like I have found that using certain AI tools have really helped me be a lot more productive. Even though I'm like a head of data and AI now, I still do a fair bit of development, right? And I would say a very sort of finger in the air guess at a number, but I would say it's probably made me 30 to 40% more productive now. Because I can get to answers much quicker. I can get to solutions much quicker. I can get it to, I can give it a prompt to write some code, and then I spend 10 minutes just sense checking that code, and it would have taken me half an hour to 45 minutes to write the whole thing out originally. So it's definitely sped up what they do. I even sometimes get it to rewrite my emails, because I'm not a wordsmith, right? I'm not very good at like formatting paragraphs, and my grammar's not always the best. So I've got, maybe it's not the best habit to have, but I've got into this habit where I know what I want to say, and I kind of just put it on a page, and then I get Copilot, if it's internal stuff for work, and because we have it in Outlook, right? Or if it's something I'm doing externally, I just put it into ChatGPT and I say, make this flow better, format it better, make my point better for me. Yeah. It's my thoughts, right? It's my word. It's not my words, but it's my thoughts, right? It doesn't deviate away from exactly what I was trying to say, but it just helps to speed up what I'm doing, So it sounds stupid, but it's not. But getting something like Copilot to write me an email in 10 seconds compared to me spending 3 to 5 minutes writing the email is much more efficient and productive, right?
Mm-hmm.
It allows me to get the message across, then move on to something else. I know we're talking about Gen AI, but we should be talking about AI in terms of BI and stuff. But I think it's all kind of relevant around. You should embrace these tools because
Yeah.
they will make you more productive. They will allow you to focus more on the things that matter, that will
Mm-hmm.
drive value for a business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think any kind of if there are any business leaders that are watching this, or if I were to speak to like a business leader, it is about productivity gains,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it can help you to be a lot more productive, just small little things. So
Mm-hmm.
I think you're absolutely on the money there, that you should embrace these things, don't fight them,
Yeah.
build them into your workflow, just make sure you have ownership of them, don't
Exactly. That's a key piece. Make sure you have ownership. And again, it's an iterative process. When you ask something of it, you still do need to sense check if it's especially a sort of generative AI use case that you're doing, say creating a piece of content. Don't just accept the first thing that throws out at you. You then become the editor. You then become the sort of manager. So it's still make it your own. And work with the AI. It's not for it to kind of do everything for you. You still do need that intervention, that sort of human in the loop, in a sense, and that's still very much true of sort of personal applications, but also in business as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Well, we've got kind of 15 minutes left, and I know we had 3 quick fire questions. So let's see how quick fire we can do these, right? So the first one was, where do you see AI taking businesses in the next few years?
I think in the next few years, AI is going to be much less about the new model releases. I think that's a lot of buzz that we're seeing right now. But I think it's going to be more about actually the invisible impact. So AI being sort of quietly embedded into a whole range of processes, again to what we were just saying, freeing people up to do more of that value creating work, that creative work that human people can do and are best at doing. So I think that's the transition that we're going to see, particularly for businesses, sort of AI embedded in AI enabled businesses where AI isn't seen as a separate thing. It's very much just sort of heavily embedded into the operations, the flow, and how things work.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Right. Question 2 was, you've kind of already answered this one, so you could just summarize what you said before, but any advice for people building their careers in data and AI or BI right now?
Yeah, we've definitely touched on these points. I think I would just reinforce, be curious and be hands-on, be involved. You really just need to be in it. So ask questions, explore new products, new tools, try them out and use them. And that's the best way to understand them and the best way to get advantage of them. And as you do that, that makes you a better communicator of these different tools. So in your different roles, if you are a BI developer, if you are an analyst, if you are a consultant, the more understanding that you have in the actual practicality of what it means to use these tools, not just the theory, you'll be a much better communicator and designer and problem solver because you have that real understanding as to how this works in applications. AI isn't just meant to be its own entity as a technology thing that exists or you fit in somewhere. It's always tying it back to the value or the application of it. And the more hands-on you can be in really understanding it and using it, the better that will make you in being not just a user, but somebody who can help others, businesses, people create those really powerful solutions.
Yep. Okay. Question 3 then was the final one. Do you have a guiding principle you'd like to share?
I'd say curiosity first and impact always. Those I think are the 2 words in anything that you do in this space, especially, but anywhere, be curious. lead with that, and always focus on the impact. What is the impact of the outcome that you're trying to achieve, and everything should really underpin that. Everything else around that will take care of itself, whether it's AI, whether it's BI. Yeah, curiosity first, impact always.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and I think that brings us full circle, doesn't it, to the beginning where we were saying about curiosity. And curiosity can be a real key thing, especially if you're just getting into this industry, asking questions, and they don't always have to be the right questions. You just ask questions, but as well as that, I would say that something that's important around that curiosity bit is just get involved in things as well.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to like put your hand up and say, I'd like to do that, or I'd like to be involved in that, or I'd like to play a part within that project, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Because what's the worst that can happen? Project manager, whoever's managing the project, or whoever it is, they can just say no, and that's it, right?
It's really, yeah.
That's the worst that can happen. And I would guarantee 8 to 9 times out of 10, people will appreciate your forwardness, right, and your forward thinking, and your wanting to get involved, and they'll be like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, well, we can get you doing these little bits here and there, whatever it might be.
And the upside is massive, because especially in this space, you don't know what you don't know. So it's really a huge sort of service to you to do the things that you know that you have absolutely no idea about, or know very little about. And I've actually found personally, it's, when I've not known exactly what it is that I'm doing, and I've really just said, this looks interesting, I want to try it, and I will learn how to do it. You will learn how to do it, and those will actually be the highlights and most interesting parts of your experience in whatever space that you work in. So even from the aside from the sort of professional development perspective, in terms of just having a fulfilling career that is actually interesting to you, that you see yourself progressing in, take that leap to put yourself forward for things and challenge yourself to do the new things, to do something different, bring forward your ideas. And at the end of the day, like you say, the worst that can happen is it doesn't work out for some reason, or you get told no. But ultimately, you'll always learn something, whether you loved it, whether you didn't, and that will help propel you forward as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you learn so much, let's call it via osmosis, right? Just being near people with the skills and the knowledge and the experience already, you'd be shocked how much you pick up. So if you can get yourself in that seat next to those people, you will just by hearing their conversations, seeing what they're doing, being part of those meetings, etc., you learn so much, right? Like just like very, very quickly, like I came into consulting not through a traditional route, right? I didn't go to university. I didn't go via the Big Four or anything like that. But what really kind of I would say, I can't remember, I don't know how long ago it was now, but years ago, right? What really propelled me was seeing the director of consulting and the way he spoke, right, and the way he presented himself, and the way he went about conducting himself and doing business, right? And I was like a junior still. So I was like, well, like in awe of this person, right? But I was like, right, I'm going to try and emulate this person in the future. Yeah. So that was kind of, like I say, learning through osmosis, the way other people do things is really quite a powerful thing. So we've got a few minutes left, and I know you wanted to just talk about something that you're working on called Jade's Edge. Do you want to just tell us a bit more about that, and then we'll close out from that point?
Yeah, so I'm really sort of passionate about sort of sharing ideas, sharing knowledge, and really providing practical and useful insights. It's always about what can you do with this information, just like we've sort of spoken about today. So if you like these kinds of ideas, it would be great for you to connect with me on LinkedIn, Jade Emmanuel. And Jade's Edge is really where I share original perspectives on things that I discussed, be it AI, data strategy, business transformation. So Jade's Edge is really sort of my short, high impact segment, sort of my signature element, where I present something that is super practical in terms of insights that you can use right away to really make a difference to how you think, what you do, and how you do it. So that's really my sort of promise of value, that every time you engage with something that I create or information that I share, that promise of value where I'm really connecting those unexpected dots across different areas, different experiences, and package that into an insight that really gives you that advantage to capture the opportunity that other people would miss. Because like we said today, and like you were sort of just saying there, Nick, being interdisciplinary, really being able to connect different pieces of information together and draw insights is a really powerful thing. And that's what gives you the advantage as an individual. That's what gives a business advantage when you have that more holistic understanding of things and being able to draw on those important points. So Jade's Edge is just my sort of high impact, short package way of giving that, as to this isn't just a sort of theoretical rule. Here's a really practical insight that you can use that gives you that advantage to rethink or do things differently and more effectively, because you have that new insight that you can leverage.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. All right. Well, if you want to follow Jade, if you go to the episode text on LinkedIn or YouTube, you'll find a link to her LinkedIn, and make sure you give her a connection request or a follow. So that kind of wraps it up now. So Jade, thanks very much for joining us today. I think it's been a really good conversation, and the comments definitely reflect that I can see. So yeah, thanks everybody, and we'll end the stream there. Thank you.